Okay, so this might be a controversial review. Masters of the Universe. So, this is a movie that most people like to trash, especially if they're big He-Man fans. And they trash it. They say it doesn't follow the continuity of the show, or it's not, it disregards some stuff, and that's true. Myself, I'm not a huge He-Man fan. I'm not a He-Man fanboy by any means. I have not watched the original version of He-Man and Masters of the Universe. I just haven't. The 80s version, no. However, the one that came on in 2002 on the Cartoon Network, that one I did watch, and that one I liked. But I'm not, decorating things. I have a He-Man TV tray that's kind of broken a little bit. It probably won't hold no food. I've used it before. But then I decided pretending to wrestle with a stuffed doll thing. It's a My Buddy doll, but pretend to wrestle with that and using that to bash it like a chair over its head. Yes, I'm weird. It's not in the best shape, but, go get it. Hold on. But it's not in the best shape. Just remember that. Skits and the gravy on the chicken. Skit on the gravy, because the skit is me. Okay. So, this is the TV tray. It's not the best TV tray given to me by my friend Eric. Here you have He-Man, Teela, who is not in the snake costume in this movie. She's dressed with the gray spandex, and her dad, the Man-at-Arms, who is pretty accurate, I'd say, and Orko, who's not in the movie at all, and that is probably the biggest negative for me. It's that they didn't use Orko, they used Gildor, a little weird brown alien thing. Kind of reminds me of a mix of Yoda with Larago from Power Rangers Turbo. Put them together, it reminds me of it, and I was like, what is that? That's not Orko. Orko would have been cool. Maybe they didn't know how to do Orko, so they just used Gildor, but... So the story here is that Skeletor has taken over Castle Grayskull, so with help from Gildor, they use this teleporter thing to get into the castle and fight off Skeletor, but he overpowers them, and they use it to journey somewhere else. That somewhere else is here. They go to Earth, because all of a sudden we want to be like Howard the Duck. There they meet two humans, Kevin and Courtney Cox. I don't remember her character's name, but and also the principal of Back to the Future is here, and he's a cop. And Skeletor sends his army there. We're going to talk about Skeletor's strategy here in a minute. Sends Skeletor. Skeletor sends his armies, his Beast Man and others, to Earth to attack He-Man and get back this crystal transporter thing. He-Man and his team need to get it working again so that they can... Or they need to find it so that they can go back to Eternia and save it. Before a certain time where the moon is coming down and the sorceress's power is being taken from her and they need to save her. So let's talk about the cast first. We got, of course, Dolph Mongren as He-Man, and I think he does a pretty good job. The decision to make He-Man like one entity and not Prince Adam, like the version of He-Man, Prince Adam first time He-Man that was on TV, Prince Adam and He-Man weren't very different. Because they looked almost the same, except for, even with the hair, it was a little bit the same. So, the version that I watched in 2002, Adam was this skinny little kid. And when he used it, then he became He-Man. And they didn't know that Prince Adam was He-Man. I like that. Prince Adam is nowhere in this film. Neither is Orko. Did I mention that? Bruce Willis's wife from the last Boy Scout is Teela, and Teela and the Man-at-Arms, they're pretty good in this. All things considered, we got Courtney Cox playing our female lead, whose name I still can't remember. But it's funny, because the Sorceress, they never really interact until the end, but the Sorceress is played by Christina Pickles. And just 5 years later, 7 years later, Christina Pickles would play Monica's mother on Friends. And if you don't know, Monica was played by Courtney Cox. And there is some Monica-isms, the way she talks and stuff. And there is even one, no! Like she says in Friends that comes out there. It's ridiculous. She has a story where, like, her parents died in a plane crash a year earlier, and now she wants to leave. She's got a boyfriend. She just wants to get out of there, which I understand. Your parents are gone. You're living in a house by yourself for some reason. I'm assuming she's 18, I guess, but like Kevin says, she's still in high school, so I don't know. But she's ready to move on. She tells her friend that. And we have Barry Livingston as their friend. What's his name? I don't care. He owns this electronics store, I guess. James Tolkien from Back to the Future, the principal there from Back to the Future, plays a cop who is on the trail of what's going on and gets connected because something happens at the school, the Skeletors, people attack, and it causes a fire, and so now he's on the case trying to figure out what happened. And James Tolkien plays the character too seriously, I think. I think he's still playing the principal from Back to the Future as a cop because he's way too stern, he's way too angry all the time. Like, he's like, oh, are you gonna... Like, when Kevin's like, well, why don't you come... He's like, he tells Kevin, why don't you come with me? He goes, are you arresting me? No, we're gonna go to your girlfriend's house and see if she's home. Yeah, it's a pretty good idea, but do you have to be angry when you say it? I mean, I don't know, the way... Because Kevin has a legitimate gripe here. Like, are you gonna arrest me? The way that he was talking, yeah, it does sound like that. Who knows? And I will admit, although I'm not done with the characters yet, Frank Langella is Skeletor. I think he's fantastic. I also think that, I already said this, but I think that Dolph Lundgren is pretty good as He-Man. I think those are the two perfect castings in this. Although, Skeletor doesn't talk like this like he usually does, but it's Frank Langella. He has a deep voice. You're not going to get him to do that voice. But he does a pretty good job. The costume, people rag on a costume, it's fine. It's fine for what it is. This is canon films. This is not a high-budget film. It's canon. You're not going to have the high-budget costume. Like, basically, Dolph Lundgren's in his underwear for most of the film. He has, like, strap things on, but it's basically he's in a loincloth. That's it. There's, like I said, Teela is in a spandex, and the Man-at-Arms looks like he's got garbage can lids on him. But it works. It's He-Man in the Masters of the Universe. What do you expect? You expect Star Wars level effects? No. There's some decent effects. They're a little wonky here and there, but it's fine. I think Beastman, he says the Beastman, but it's Beastman. I think Beastman looks good. I used to have a Beastman action figure from the 2002 version. It was like a McDonald's toy, I think. It was really cool. And Cringer. Where the fuck is Cringer? I mean, come on. You got He-Man. You didn't give us Orko. At least give us Cringer. He doesn't have Cringer or Battle Cat, whatever you call him. Come on. That was another big complaint. You don't give us Orko. You don't give us Cringer. Come on. Well, I guess if we don't have Adam, then Cringer wouldn't be there. But Battle Cat, I mean, come on. At least at the end, when he comes back, he should have Battle Cat, helping him. I don't know. I don't know, but it's just funny. It's weird. It's weird. But, yes. And I will admit, when they jump through the portal, and I'm like, don't go to Earth. Please don't go to Earth. They end up on Earth, even though they're in this, forest thing. And then when they cut to Courtney Cox, I'm like, what is this? Did I change the channel? What is this? And I'm like, okay, we're on Earth. We're Howard the Duck in this movie with going to Earth. But to this film's credit, they don't play it like a fish out of water scenario like with Howard the Duck. They're there. They fight the bad guys. There's no, what is this? There is the little thing with the chicken bones, it's on these white sticks. Oh, there are rib bones. Okay. But I think it works fine. They don't do the fish out of water thing because they're focused on the action, which is what you should be with a Masters of the Universe film. So I think it's handled very well. I think they don't, they're separate entities, but it doesn't at any moment feel awkward to have these characters in the real world like I thought it would be when I realized what was going on. It works. And for the most part, I didn't mind it. But James Tolkien, you have to have his character be I don't believe in anything, even though I've seen exactly what's going on and everything in front of me, I still don't believe it. Even though he sees a complete alien invasion and he tells the other cops this, he still is trying to find a grounded reason for all of it. I don't know. He has to be that one character who doesn't believe in anything, he sees it for himself. I don't know. And, yeah, so there's fighting and action. And the action fighting sequences are actually not that bad. It's not heavily choreographed like Jackie Chan or a Van Damme movie or anything, but it's fine for what it is. I didn't think there was very bad fight scenes, except for one, which I'll get to towards the end, because it's kind of an important one that kind of felt meh, like they weren't even trying, but for the most part, it works out good. But eventually, Skeletor comes along, and I did like this shot where they're on a rooftop, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and Skeletor raises above the rooftop on his little glider thing. I thought that was pretty cool. Again, he doesn't have his Battle Cat either, whatever you call that one. If he had it back then, I don't know. I know he had it in the 2002 version, but maybe he didn't have it back then. I don't know. I haven't watched any of the classic stuff. But, yes, and so they capture them, and he tells He-Man, he says, if you be my slave, I will spare them. Even though Courtney Cox already got hit by his little laser blasty thingy in the leg, which comes into play here in a minute, but he agrees, and they go back to Eternia. Now, before I continue, here's my big plot problem. Before they jump, they open the portal, but Skeletor's people, they attack and they damage the thing. It falls down, and Man of Arms has to grab a thing and bring it with them, even though he doesn't see what he's doing. And they have to, even though it sort of works, it makes the noise, they don't know that at first. But they get a signal from it. I guess I'm complaining because I was going to say, why are they even going after them? I think it's even before they get a signal, they're like, oh, we have to go, we have to stop them. I'm like, and even then, they're trying to get back to Eternia, right? So why not have every single member of your army in that throne room ready to attack when they portal through? Now, doesn't that make much more sense than sending a bunch of goons after them? Doesn't it? Bring me every member of my army to this throne room and just cover it from wall to wall. And then they beam in, ready to take back Eternia in. Uh-oh. we're screwed, and they're captured. But then again, these kind of villains, they don't have a brain power. In fact, he's a skeleton. I don't think is there a brain in there? I don't know. But anyway, so Skeletor captures them. He takes He-Man back to Eternia, and there is a time thing because the Sorceress is losing powers. And we gotta connect that because now we find out the Sorceress is the only one that can heal Courtney Cox because her leg is poisoned by the lightning that Skeletor threw out. And so Gildar tries to get the thing working, but he doesn't. It's broken and he can't get the tones. But of course, against Kevin's a musician, he gets a keyboard, sets it up, and a bunch of things that I happen to have on. I'm like, well, I need this. And he's like, I have one of those. And he's like, well, I need this. Well, I need this. And Man at Arms is like, I have one of those. And then it's like, well, I need a keyboard. I can get one from, what's his name, Star. And he goes, and that's when James Tolkien sees him. I'm like, oh, really? We're doing this. We're doing that. Oh, I'm going to stop you no matter what. And he shows up and he's like, don't move or I'll shoot. And he's like, we got to go. Don't, until they take everything with them, like everything that is around them. They take Tolkien, they take the people, they take a bush, they take part of the wall, they take half a car. It just appears in there, and it's like, and it's like, it looks like, this is where the effects are kind of down, because it looks like a set. It doesn't look like real bushes. It doesn't look like a real wall. It looks like a set that was constructed right there in the middle of the throne room. And now I'm going to point this out because it is something I rolled my eyes out. So Skeletor says, because they ask Skeletor, what do we do with that? Pointing to the people. Let them go. If I keep my promise, He-Man will keep his. He will be my slave. Okay. Soon as they show up, kill them. You told me you would leave them alive. I lied. Well, then he doesn't have to keep his promise anymore. So, breaks out. And he, gets to the sword. He does the, I have the power. Even though he's already He-Man. So I don't understand that part. But he gets magical powers. By the way, Skeletor at one point uses it to give him powers. And he looks like Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat. Even though that hadn't come out yet, but he looks like Shao Kahn. But, so there's fighting in the background, but He-Man fights Skeletor and knocks him into a pit, and then they heal Courtney Cox, and they sing Kevin and Courtney Cox back, and they say goodbyes, kind of like Wizard of Oz, and they go back. And okay, so before I do this, because I told you about the fight scene between He-Man and Skeletor, he's got the sword, and Skeletor's got his staff, and it's a little lacking. It should be a little bit better. I mean, Dolph Lundgren has done other fight scenes before and after, so yeah, it's a little wooden. It's just like it's too choreographed for my liking. But anyway, so they send them both back, and Courtney Cox wakes up in her bed in a nightgown for some reason. And this is where the movie loses me. Because they've sent them back to before her parents died. They're still alive, and she takes their keys so they can't go to the airport. And even when she goes with Kevin, he goes, don't let me get on a plane. It's okay. I stopped them. Like, no, you took their keys. They can't drive their car, but they can call a cab. You haven't stopped anything. And this, because James Tolkien decided to stay behind in Eternia, right? But now that they're a year in the past, there's still going to be a James Tolkien there in the past. They're stuck in a year in the past. They went back a year. So James Tolkien's still going to be there. And because time is going to move the way it did before, even though her parents are still alive, eventually He-Man and his people are going to end up there again. and it's going to play out the way it did, I think they're stuck in a loop. Except for this time, her parents are still going to be alive. And there's no surprise they were going to do a sequel. Kenan had big things in mind for this. They even set up a post-credit stinger, which was uncommon at the time, at which Skeletor pops out of his head out of the thing and goes, "I'll be back." You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, shut up. But, yeah, they set up a sequel. But everyone hated this movie because it's not like He-Man, so it sucks. It's nothing like the cartoon, so it sucks. Because a lot of people who went to see this were hardcore He-Man fanboys who wanted it to be exactly like the cartoon. Keep in mind that those same fanboys were also fans of Ninja Turtles and loved the Ninja Turtles movie even though it was nothing like the cartoon. It was darker, there was swearing. I mean, they had the same kind of personalities, but it wasn't, I mean, it followed the theme of the TV series better than this, but, and I guess maybe I don't have the room to talk because I'm not a hardcore He-Man fan, I'm just a casual fan. But I enjoyed this movie. Not every minute of it, obviously. There's parts of it that I have problems with. I don't know why I was going to say powers, but problems with. But I enjoyed this movie more than I thought I would. Especially when I found out they were going to Earth, I rolled my eyes and I was like, okay, here we go. I'm going to hate it. I didn't. I found myself engaged in every moment of this film, even after that. I loved it. And you're going to hate me for this. Hate me. But I don't know. People are going to cancel me for this. I'm sending it to the moon. I'm sorry, I loved this movie. There's little problems with it, but honestly, the good outweighs the bad for me, and I gotta give it to the moon. I gotta give it a perfect score. I'm sorry. I loved this movie. I may rewatch it again and I may have problems, but from the score by Bill Conti of Rocky, get out of here. Come on. The score, the opening, some of the fight scenes, like that last one, the portrayals of the characters, even Gildor, who I wished was Orko, was still a good character. I ended up liking him in the end. So, yeah, from beginning to end, I enjoyed this movie, so I'm sending it to the moon. Here we go. And I plan on buying Blu-ray so I can enjoy it in HD. Also, I'm going to show my son this movie. He's not a big He-Man fan either, but I'm sure he'll like this movie. It is an 80s film. I'm sorry. Hate me for this, but it gets a perfect score. It's to the moon. I can't hate this movie for whatever reason. I just can't. So, what are your thoughts on Masters of the Universe? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. And I'm doing one more movie. And I decided I need to pick an action hero, a good enough action hero to end this. I probably should end it on Arnold, but I'm going with Denzel Washington. And that'll be the next and final movie in this thing, which ends in 10 movies anyway. I want to do more than 10, but even though I started earlier, still only ended in 10, so I guess it works. But that'll be the last one I do, so make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.